Imagine this square contains your favorite album of this year. Go ahead, think of any album you want. If you can't decide on your favorite, just think of any album you really liked. Now, ideally, that album you picked was entirely your decision. If you had to listen to it again for the first time without knowing the artist who made it or what it was called, you'd still enjoy it. You'd still pick it, right? After all, you're the one who chooses your music taste, right? In 2007, the Washington Post conducted an experiment with world-renowned violinist Joshua Bell. His instrument is a Gibson Stradivarius, an antique violin crafted in the year 1713 and estimated to be worth around $14 million. In this experiment, he set up his violin next to a trash basket in a busy metro station in Washington, D.C. and started playing for tips. For almost an hour, he played a repertoire of 6 classical pieces, while more than 1,000 people walked past him without turning to look or listen. A recording by a hidden camera showed that a few people stopped here and there to put dollar bills, quarters, and sometimes even pennies in his collection case before walking away. An article later published in the Washington Post revealed that except for the one person who recognized him, that day he earned $32.17. Not bad, until you consider that just one of his concert seats goes for about $100. One passerby later said, "I saw the violinist, but nothing about him struck me as much of anything." It feels like people appreciate music a lot less when they don't know who's making it. Because if a Grammy-winning violinist can get ignored by 1,000 people, you start to understand that you've probably been turning down music that you actually would have liked, just because it's an artist you don't know. Is your music taste really even your own? Your music taste isn't a certain style of music, because most people don't limit themselves to a certain style of music. You don't take a genre and go all the way down the list, listening to every song and artist from that genre. If you're like most people, you take a small handful of artists and listen to quite literally everything they make. And then when you're done, you start repeating songs. In 2023, these were the top 10 artists people listened to on Spotify. Now, when you had to pick your favorite album, did you truly pick your favorite album? Or did you just pick your favorite artist, and then pick one of their albums you liked? Nowadays, music taste is based not on what you actually like to listen to, but more on which person you can idolize the most so that you can convince yourself that all of their music exactly fits your taste. And that's not an accident. That's how the biggest artists sell out concert venues and get you to buy their merch and stream their albums from start to finish. Meanwhile, lesser-known artists are desperately releasing single after single while working a day job, hoping that with enough TikTok promotion, someone will actually figure out their music exists. These people could very well have music perfectly suited to what you like. All they need is for you to try them out just once, for their music to be put in front of you. But unfortunately, you don't get to choose what music you see. They choose what music you see. Remember your favorite album? You know, the one you put in the square? It's pretty much guaranteed that your favorite album was made by a big-name artist whose songs get millions of streams. Well, duh, right? Isn't that just expected? Why would I know someone unless they're relevant? Well, there's actually another reason. Smaller artists literally can't afford to spend time making albums. This is a chart showing album sales in the past few years. And if you look closely, the future of the album is not looking too good. Not only are less people buying them, but less people are making them. Have you ever noticed that some of the newer musicians you like, even the ones who are doing well, for some reason just don't have albums? Either you can only find one album, or you can just find singles and EPs. It's because albums are risky. They cost a lot of money to make. They take a lot of time, usually at least a year. And at the end of it all, what if the album flops? The much safer option is to instead make singles, one at a time, hoping they blow up, get picked up by the algorithm, and get featured in a playlist. Some artists will risk it anyway, but others can't afford to. That leaves you, the listener, with less choice in what musicians you can binge. But if you actually want the experience of a full album, then you're naturally going to drift more towards the people at the top, who already have 5, 10, 15 albums already released. Everyone else is just scrambling to get their singles onto Hot Country or Sad Indie or Feel Good Dinner. So unless you truly search far and wide, you're naturally going to develop a taste for Spotify core music. this isn't to make Spotify seem like the enemy though, because honestly, if we didn't have streaming services, we'd still be buying albums and downloading music. And when you think about it, it's actually a really efficient way to recommend music that keeps people happy. It looks at all the music you listen to and tries to find other users with similar listening habits, and then it recommends you what those people like. Is that going to result in giant clusters of people who all get recommended the same 5 artists until it starts to feel like everyone who likes one of them likes all of them? That's exactly what's happening. But maybe it's better if we leave it up to the algorithms. The thing about music taste is it's pretty random. You probably like music that makes you seem cool, but what counts as cool is pretty much up to chance. This is a video from 2003 of the lead singer of the Beatles, Paul McCartney, playing the song Back in the USSR for a crowd in Moscow. Despite the Beatles having never actually visited Russia before this, and despite most of the crowd not even understanding the lyrics, clearly they seem to have been Beatles fans their entire lives. During the years of the Cold War, Western music, especially rock and roll, was banned in the Soviet Union. A large list of mainly rock bands such as Pink Floyd, AC/DC, and the Beatles were restricted from ever being broadcast on the radio, and records were confiscated at the border. Now, this might have not been a big deal if it weren't for the fact that Soviet youth who wanted to express rebellion smuggled Beatles records across the border and sometimes created homemade copies on X-ray film just to listen to this banned music. What then happened was a generational influence of the Beatles' music on the Russian population. They would listen to these records on repeat in secret, because listening to the Beatles made you cool. Nowadays, songs can also become randomly cool just by trending on TikTok, like how Dreams by Fleetwood Mac more than doubled in weekly streams after a guy posted a video of him lip-syncing to the song while drinking cranberry juice on a skateboard. And this is just one of thousands of examples. In the past 5 years, your music taste has literally been dependent on what TikTok is going viral on a certain day, cause just a few million views on TikTok is enough to jumpstart a song toward 1 billion streams, all from a video that randomly starts trending. Another thing that makes music cool and trendy is being underground. Sometimes that means not even being released. In 2010, an unreleased Kanye West song, known as See Me Again, was leaked and published to YouTube, which led to fans speculating about the meaning of the song, trying to analyze the production deeply, and even trying to uncover other secret versions of the song. To be honest, the song is just him freestyling into a vocoder. And I'ma spit it like I get it, kinda something I'm done. I'd rather live by what I live by than that, but I'm fine. I learned something on the devil to my very last breath. But it still gets millions of views on YouTube, with just unofficial leaked versions. It seems like most of the hype around it is because of its mysteriousness, the fact that no one knows about it. If you've ever scrolled all the way to a musician's first ever song, you're probably listening to it with the intent to like it, just so you can brag to people that you know these songs that no one else knows. And this is just true in general. We're all guilty of listening to a song by an artist we like, and rationalizing every choice they make, in the end to conclude that the song was perfect, and nothing could have been done better. But let's imagine that you really are different, and you like to keep your listening habits diverse. You like to discover new stuff. Well, that's a great thing. It's just that Spotify really wants to be the one who discovers that new stuff for you. According to Spotify's own internal data, people who listen to more diverse music are more likely to buy Spotify Premium, while people who listen to the same types of music every day tend to stay on the free version. So you can probably guess from this, Spotify wants to feed you diverse types of music, so that you'll start to like diverse types of music, and hopefully, that'll make you buy the premium version. But what's the problem with that? If anything, that's just giving you a more diverse music taste. Commercial considerations may influence our recommendations. Now, how big is that may? A study found that from 2018 to 2022, major labels accounted for nearly 70% of the music featured in the New Music Friday playlist on Spotify. When Spotify recommends you new music to expand your taste, you are getting a selection that is filtered to include more music by artists who have either signed for big labels or produced music that will make the big labels happy. Now, we probably are never going to find a way around this, but if you're like most people, including me, it's not that big of a deal. We'd rather just listen to the big artists who guarantee good quality. I mean, when you put on a Frank Ocean song, you expect good quality, and for the most part, you can't argue that that's what you get. Except, that's not Frank Ocean. That's just a loop I found on a free sound website. Would you listen to TV Girl if I put the name there and the album cover and just played some random beat over it? How much of your music taste has to do with the name and the album cover, and how much of it has to do with your actual taste? Every year since 2016, Spotify has released Wrapped, a cool summary of the music you listened to during the past year. And if anyone knows your music taste, it's them. This year, Spotify introduced Soundtowns, which is supposed to show you which cities have listening patterns similar to yours. According to Spotify, there were over 1,300 possible Soundtowns a user could have gotten. However, people on Twitter quickly noticed that pretty much everyone was getting the same 3 cities, either Burlington, Vermont, Berkeley, California, or Cambridge, Massachusetts. Even if you didn't live in the US, you had a good chance of having one of these 3 towns to characterize your music taste. What's so special about these 3 towns? Well, the answer is that they're college towns. They have large populations of college students. It seems like this age group decides what music becomes and stays popular, which makes sense because certain studies suggest that your music taste locks in around your young adult years and doesn't change much after that. If you're around this age, what you listen to now is probably what you'll be listening to forever, and you probably won't get sick of it. So is that it? Does our music taste just get chosen by a bunch of commercially influenced algorithms and social trends, and once we hit a certain age, we're stuck with it? Does my personality have no influence on the music I like? Well, it actually might. Besides obvious statements like athletes listen to higher energy music, and mellow people like softer music, it's pretty hard to discover anything that we don't already just assume about music taste and personality. And those assumptions might not even be true. Some studies show that your self-image of yourself, rather than your actual personality, is what draws you towards certain music types. So if you're an athlete, you're going to gravitate towards fast and powerful music, because that's what you think athletes should be listening to. Which means if you want to change your personality, you might be subconsciously changing what you listen to match who you want to become. So maybe the answer to the question, did you get to choose your music taste, is yes, at least as much as you wanted to choose it.